Hello, my soul seeking friends. It's Shanna. Thank you so much for listening to Sense of Soul podcast. Enlightening conversations with like minded souls from around the world, sharing their journey of finding their light within, turning pain into purpose, and awakening to their true sense of soul. If you like what you hear, show me some love and rate, like, and subscribe. And consider becoming a Sense of Soul Patreon member, where you will get ad-free episodes, monthly circles, and much more. Now go grab your coffee, open your mind, heart, and soul. It's time to awaken. Happy New Year! Can't believe this year has come to an end, but I must say, I look forward to a better year. Today on Sense of Soul, I have a special guest, Bree Blea Burns. She is a certified emotion code and body code practitioner and the soul behind Shift Your Energy. Bree specializes in these modalities that helps her clients gently release emotional baggage, eliminate limiting beliefs, and align their energy for lasting transformation. Bree, a Sense of Soul listener herself, wants to offer you listeners a special package that includes an emotion code session and a body code session that are designed to break through emotional and energetic blocks, paving the way for greater clarity, success, and abundance. No matter what you are working through, Bree provides a safe and sacred space for healing and growth. I suggest all of you, after this episode, go and check out Bree's website. And if you're interested, use the code SOS15 at checkout. She is a very special soul who has become a dear friend, and I'm so very honored to have her with us today. So please welcome Bree.
I find it to be so amazing, the synchronicity between you and I. Crazy. So when you first reached out to me, you were not in Colorado. You were in Texas, I believe.
Yeah, so my spiritual transformation started happening about really 2018 is when it began, but I got deeper into it more like 2019, 2020. I found the podcast in 2019, kind of was listening to it like secretly, because I'm still trying to figure everything out. And I would be at work and I'd have it on, and it was so instrumental for me to not feel alone. I really, really, really appreciated the space. And then you kept saying oh, I'm just a regular mom from Aurora, Colorado. And I'm like, hi, Aurora, Colorado. I grew up here for most of my life. And so I was like, there's no way. And that's when you and Mandy were both doing the show. What was that, 2020? I think I ended up sending you guys an email. I'm just going to reach out. And so I sent the email kind of with a little bit of my story. And you guys were so on it, immediately messaged me back, no way, can't believe you're from here. And then we had that little Zoom chat. And yeah, and that was at the very beginning. I had just done my Reiki 1 and 2. And I kind of thought that would be the direction I would go. And now I use that more just for personal time. And occasionally in sessions, it just kind of depends. Sometimes it comes up and I just feel like it's the right thing. But I was getting ready to move back to Colorado.
I know, which I was so excited about because then I got to meet you. Yeah. In fact, we're talking and you say that your dad has been a counselor at the schools for years.
Father-in-law.
Oh, your father-in-law. And I'm like, wait, what? He was my daughter and son's counselor.
Yeah.
Well, you know how they have him per grade? He was my daughter's counselor. Yeah, at the same school. And, I had kids there, back to back.
He was there for 15, 16, 17 years, something.
Such a small world.
I know.
So your journey and, brought you back to Colorado. And I love how you're like me, you're a seeker, trying out different modalities, and we all have special gifts. And it's what's going to resonate with us.
Right. The way I found out about Reiki, I didn't even know what the word Reiki was. I'd only heard it one time in my life, and it was way back. I was probably 13, and my mom used to be a massage therapist, and one of her massage friends also did Reiki. And I can remember her saying at one point, Reiki. I don't know. Does Reiki, he says I should do Reiki. I don't know Reiki. And that's the only context in which I'd ever heard it. This was, again, during like 2019, 2020. I just, all of a sudden in my ear, I just heard like Reiki, Reiki in my head. I was like, the heck is that? And I didn't tell my husband about it. I didn't tell anyone about it. I just had it in my head.
Yeah.
And then a couple weeks later, my mom and I went out to lunch, and she's like, I got a really weird message from like a random lady on my Facebook who she was like acquaintances with. And she's like, she sent me a message asking me if I had a daughter. And I was like, yeah. She's like, your daughter needs to do Reiki. Like, that's the path for her.
Like, I'm supposed to do what? Like, when my little brother heard that I did Reiki, he thought I did it with like a rake. He thought it was like a massage technique.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, like, and when I took those courses, I had already started to kind of deconstruct my belief system, and it totally blew the lid off of what I thought I knew or understood. Like, I had two super crazy experiences in that weekend that I took my 1 and 2. It just blew my mind. Like, and added more like, oh my gosh, what? And then also cemented like things that were already kind of rumbling around in me. And so yeah, that's kind of where it all started.
It kind of like connects you to that multidimensional self.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the birth of my daughter in 2018 was really the first thing that started to shift my internal state. I went through a really bad bout of postpartum depression and anxiety. And, to the point where I was like considering not being here anymore. All these bricks I had built around my life just started crumbling. And it was like wild and devastating and heartbreaking and confusing. And then, I found this podcast, and it just made it all feel a little bit lighter. Yeah. And then again, so many synchronicities between us. And then,
Amazing. I mean,
yeah,
definitely feel like it was meant to be. And also, you were doing human design.
I'd love to implement it more at some point, but yeah.
Yeah. Because I feel that way too, even with Reiki. Like, it's such a good foundation for whatever energy work you choose to do or whatever work you do. All those tools are so good.
Yeah.
But human design was very interesting. You became kind of my go-to with that. You're very intelligent, Brie.
Thank
And I mean, I have, seasoned people on here talking about human design, but I feel like your passion and how you connect things. And I don't know if it's just was with me because you know me, but you read that very well. So I'm curious to see how everything will unfold with all of your new modalities. Like, the emotional code. Is it called emotion code?
Emotion code and body code. Yeah.
Body code. The lady who was my Reiki master, she's the only person I've ever known that did that.
It's like a modality that I think is incredible and so fascinating, but so many people don't even know about it.
Yeah. And they have a book. And I bought the book.
Yeah. And that's the other thing I love about this system is like it's very inviting to anyone who, like, if you can't afford a session with a practitioner, the book will teach you how to do this for yourself. Like, it's very inclusive. And, from my perspective, I took a year's worth of courses to really deeply learn this stuff. But I started on myself. And because I did that, I thought, I'm going to take these classes because this is incredible. I have no way of explaining how it works or why it works. It just does.
That's one of the things I love about Reiki because, as a massage therapist as well, and I've learned lots of modalities and several energy modalities as well. But it was always taught to me to do on someone else, right? And this is such our system, isn't it? And Reiki was the first,
Capitalism.
and Reiki was the very first thing that made you go within yourself first. That
Right.
first level of Reiki is about you and self Reiki. And I'm one of those teachers that I don't like to do 1 and 2 in one weekend because I feel like that first one is yours. And like you should have like a week in between. So that way you can learn to experience it for yourself first. I'd be even down for longer than that.
Totally agree. I think that's the only thing I would say when I learned was that I wish I had had more time with just Reiki 1. And like I said, it blew my mind. It was incredible, but it was also like really overwhelming.
We're so used to only doing for others. You know what I mean? Even, being as a mother, right? It's all about the child, being a partner. And so that was really a huge part of my self-love journey.
Me too. Yep. I totally disagree with that now. I'm like, no, how can I provide anything from myself now to anyone else if I'm not taking care of me? If I don't have anything left to give, there's no reason for me to be pushing, especially as a projector. I only have limited energy. Like, if I'm not doing the things for myself, I can't work with clients. I can't be the best mom I need to be. I can't be the best partner. So it's like, it's backwards, so backwards. And our culture has made it normal for women to just completely give themselves away.
Right.
Yeah, it's sad.
And I've noticed how much for men too, because if men were to connect with that, they'd be more of that divine masculine.
Correct. Yep,
No. Yeah.
totally agree. Yeah, and men have been so mistreated in our system too, and made to be things that they maybe aren't, and maybe don't want to be. And it's also tied up in colonizing and capitalism. And I hope we're moving in a place that, regardless of like gender identity, like that divine masculine, divine feminine can come together. 'Cause we need both. We really do.
Absolutely. We do. And it seems like there is pushback. That's what I've noticed more this year than ever. So it's like for the past few years, been, I'll just say it like quote unquote, all love and light, feeling that, feeling a very strong connection, being able to really disconnect, from all of the chaos. And it seems like there's this strong energy trying to pull, not just me, just like the world in. It's almost like they have like this vacuum and they're like, no, all of you.
I think we're moving in a way that like the world needs justice. The power is supposed to be with the people. And I think people are finally waking up to that and being like, wait a minute, where's my say in this? What world do I want to see? I think there is something deeply spiritual about being not even political, but just fighting for the light, fight for the light. Yeah.
Find the light. But there is this very strange thing that happens when you become like very present and aware. You start to realize how really effed up this place is. I mean, and I've seen a pattern, like I'd say this past year, that they're like, kind of like in the movie Wizard of Oz, nothing to see over here,
Right.
don't pay attention to this guy behind the curtain. And people don't. They don't question things. They just turn around and go back to their mundane lives. And I find it very interesting. I mean, with the drones even that's happening.
All in the other day.
You did?
Yeah.
I heard they're here in Colorado now. It's very interesting that people are just like, oh, whatever. Government's not worried about it. Why should I? Kind of thing, or
I think there's so much fear in our world.
yeah,
It's easy to get sucked into it and also be afraid. But I feel like part of my job as someone who's done a lot of internal work is to I refuse to be afraid. I refuse to be afraid anymore
that's power.
because we can't. If we're in fear, we lose our power.
It's a low vibration. When you think about COVID, the state of fear in the world collectively. But those who decided to not live in fear and to go within during that time, that was like a huge awakening for a lot of people.
That's what happened to me. I was afraid and there were so many unknowns, but it was like I couldn't stop this transformation. I was in therapy then. I started deconstructing all sorts of things in my life. Like I look back on myself in that time, and I'm like, I don't even know who that is. Like, I just feel totally different.
Have you ever read that book, Man's Search for Meaning?
Uh-uh.
Oh, it's such a good book. I've listened to it like probably 3 times. Now I understand why so many people post-COVID have said that that's their favorite book, because I feel like in some way it represents all of us. So it's about this guy who was in a concentration camp. It's a true story. He found his freedom within there, and he was a psychologist. He was able to disconnect from that victim fear mode, and within the worst situation ever, found freedom within. And I think that that's kind of like what happened to those who awakened here during that time. They faced their fear and they made a choice.
Yeah, I can remember having many difficult conversations during that time and being afraid of like, what if I change too much? Who will be left? And those were actual decisions that I had to make to get where I am. And I'm so thankful for my immediate people around me. Like, they just are still there. And many don't understand, and that's okay. And that's part of that awakening journey, is just realizing like, all I have is me. At the end of the day, all we have is ourselves. It does not matter what the voices outside of your inner voice say. And learning to let my inner voice be more kind, because it had a lot going on.
Yeah, because you grew up religious as well. You have those conditions, those patterns that you're used to that run through your head. That voice is not a kind voice, and it's one that's been passed down for generations, and it roots to religion, unfortunately.
Yeah, very shameful, very fear-based. Yeah, and breaking out of all of that has been probably the most challenging thing I've ever done for myself, because there's so many unanswered questions. Like, I really didn't know where I was going to land, and all I could do is just like take it one tiny, tiny step at a time. And I think for years prior to now, I think there's a good 2 years where I kept telling people like, I feel like I'm on the edge of a cliff and like pebbles are falling off the sides and I'm watching them go all the way down and I'm like, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh. And through this work that I'm doing and being able to do sessions on myself, like, I feel like I've finally been able to like clear out a lot of those limiting beliefs and just jump off of it. I feel like I'm still maybe in like the falling stage where I'm like, okay, do I have a parachute? Yeah. But you just have to do it.
Yeah, it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, very proud of you. I mean, that's kind of like what's happening globally right now, collectively.
Need everyone to be in their true self so that we can all rise together with each individual gift, because they all work together.
Yeah. That's another thing that's been a theme this year that's been coming very, very strong, that how to help this chaos is by healing yourself.
Yeah. Going back into the body, back into the body, back into the body over and over again. Yeah.
It's our responsibility, and to know thyself.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah. So, many of the things that keep us, well, the major thing that keeps us is fear. And you can go and look at YouTube right now, I guarantee. And we could just read the titles. And I'm sure we all have different algorithms, but I'm also sure that there will be one after another, or at least every other, fear mongering titles.
Totally. To grab your attention, give you some kind of body sensation, and then click dopamine.
And that's still better than the news.
Oh gosh.
Still better than the news. I always say, pick and choose what you watch. Yeah, I'm definitely not going to watch the news.
No, I follow very specific people for news related things because it really overloads my nervous system. And then I can't be with anyone because I'm constantly trying to like soothe myself too
Yeah.
much.
With that, you experience physical symptoms. What was it last week? I heard bad news. Oh, I heard about the Pope opening portals, right?
Oh, all that.
That concerned me. And I was nauseous for days. For days. And I was like, well, maybe it's because I'm not eating with this vitamin, or maybe I have that gastroparesis again, or maybe I ate something. They're saying that everything in the food right now, it's like every day there's a different warning. Right now it's
Right.
avian bird flu, and tomorrow it's, whatever. It's crazy. But if I can connect with that energy, the energy that is triggering whatever it is. I mean, because it's an energy, no matter what it is. Even if you stub your toe, it's an energy
Everything
that
energy.
triggers,
Yeah.
a pain. And then you have a chance to control it. Without that awareness and that connection, you're disconnected from your body.
Right. Right. And I think, going into this work, that's probably the most I'm a natural skeptic. And I think that's why this work is so interesting for me to do because, even when I first found these modalities, I was fascinated. Like instantly, like, I have to know more. I have to research this. Like, what is this? And there's been stuff that I've had to even work through, like learning it, like, okay, like that makes sense. Like everything is energy, even things that we consider like dense matter, right? It's made up of energy. And coming to terms with that, it's such a weird brain shift to do when you're so used to thinking linear current way. Yeah. Yeah. It really kind of expands a whole new horizon of opportunities for thinking
Yeah.
because it's not mainstream.
So, will you write down what emotion code is and where this stems from? Just kind of like the root of it.
So the belief is that, like I just said, energy, it's the most basic material. Everything's made out of it. Subatomic particles create atoms, and atoms create everything. And so when you look at any physical matter, most of it's just empty space. I like to use a hand analogy. Like if you look at your hand, you see skin. If you go under the skin, you see bones and ligaments and muscle. If you go deeper into that, tissue. If you go deeper into the tissue, like the more layers you go down, it's just energy. We're all this energy. And the work that I do is to find specific frequencies in that energy that may have been stuck or trapped at some point. It's very common for a lot of us to be stuffers. I was one. All these feelings, express them, and then we just stuff. And all of that gets stuck in the body vibrationally. So emotion code is inside of body code. So they kind of work in tandem. You can also split them and just do emotion code, which obviously just emotionally. Body code is more body systems. And then the emotion side can come into that as well. But so with emotion code, it's pretty straightforward. As a practitioner, or as you can learn in the book, use kinesiology, applied kinesiology. So it's muscle testing. And that's directly related to the subconscious mind. So our conscious mind is sort of the like gatekeeper. It has awareness. It's like the here and now brain. The subconscious mind is like a supercomputer. It knows everything you've ever done, experienced, seen, looked at, felt. It's all organized into the subconscious mind. And the body is the expression of the subconscious mind, where we hold all of our beliefs. It thinks more like a computer, so more black and white. It's programmable. And that's what we're doing when we're working with the subconscious mind. So I will connect with a client. Everything I do is at a distance, which we can talk about too. I know for some people that's kind of weird, but I connect to their energy. And then I take a moment of silence to just kind of connect in myself, make sure I'm on the right page, make sure I'm connected to them. And then I like to invite ancestors, spirit guides, anyone on their end of things or on my end of things that can assist in this healing. And then with muscle testing, I'm always going to ask a yes or no question. Because like I said, the subconscious is a very black and white yes or no system. And so I usually use a ring and ring method is what it's called. Some people do like an arm test. There's many different ways you can do it, but this one was my favorite. And so I could say, is there a trapped emotion that we can release? based on sometimes people will give me a topic. Other times it's just more general. They're not sure what they want to work on. Let's say there's a specific topic. For example, I did a session on my sister-in-law one. They had flown in to visit, and ever since she was on the plane, like her whole shoulder and neck were just like stuck and frozen. And so I was like, let's just try that session. And this was even before I had my body code certification. So we just did emotion code. And I just asked her body, is there an emotion we can release? And I get a strong answer, which is yes. So my fingers stay together. A weak answer is no, they don't. So yes, there was. I released maybe 8, 9, 10, something like that, different emotions. And with those emotions, we can find an age of the occurrence, which I think is one of the most fascinating things because we all feel a wave of emotions our whole lives. We all have the capability of feeling all of them. Positive, negative, neutral, they're all there. So when I'm testing, I use the word negative emotions. So you could think anger, bitterness, rage, these types of things, which on that vibration scale, like they are on the lower spectrum of vibration. But I don't like to call them bad. And I think sometimes using negative as sort of like a bad connotation. To me, all feelings are needed. We would not be living this human experience if we didn't have a full range of these emotions from love and joy to like rage and anger.
I mean, I have really come to terms with that recently because you need sometimes to get angry in your life to be able to really stick up for what you believe.
Can we experience joy to its fullest extent if we don't know what sorrow is?
Yeah.
Everything is duality. Like we have to have them. So I think a lot of the times, these emotions just get labeled as bad or wrong. And that just creates shame, which is another emotion. Like it's so layered. So anyway, I was working on my sister-in-law and we had released these 8 to 10 emotions. And after the last one, I was like, okay, go ahead and, like move around, move some energy, see where you're at. And her face, she was like, oh my gosh, I don't feel any. And for days and days, he had just been like taking ibuprofen and suffering. And there's so many stories like that where it's either physical. I've worked with deeply like spiritual things, beliefs, anything and everything you can imagine. This can be applied to.
Right, because it's in many layers of us.
I love to get the age of these occurrences because it tends to pop up an image in your head.
I like to do that as well.
Yeah, people will, I'll come up, let's say, with sadness and I'll find the age and I'll say, okay, I basically split their age in half and try to say, was it younger life, older life? And then I kind of narrow it down within like a 1 or 2 year kind of range. And instantly people will go, oh, I know what that was. I fell off my bike and no one helped me. Like these little things that again, our conscious mind is never thinking of, but our subconscious has this record of all the instances that have ever happened to us. And it can directly link it. Like the second this sadness frequency is directly connected with your 8-year-old self who fell off their bike, you can just see it click. And those things get stuck. Sometimes they just lead to like emotional disturbances or unsettled feelings. And other times, if they've been left a really, really long time, they can start causing body issues. They're trapped in our body. And kind of think of them as like little orbs of energy that kind of just get lodged in different places of the body.
Did I ever tell you about, or did you ever hear my podcast? You might have.
Probably.
About how when I was taking a past life regression class, Mandy and I were doing that. And I used my daughter Lindsay as a guinea pig. And so I was thinking I was going to take her back in a past life regression, right? And so at the beginning, I chose her entryway as through my womb. She was having this reoccurring dream of waking up and she was naked and she would wake up with this funny taste in her mouth.
Oh, yes. I do remember this story. Yes.
So insane. But as she came to the birth canal, she said, oh my God, this is it.
Yeah.
She was able to connect it with how sometimes she feels alone because she had swallowed a lot of amniotic fluid.
Yeah.
Which was the taste that she was She
Yeah.
tasted that
And then they took her away from you, right?
took her away from me for like
Yeah.
hours.
See, and these are the things that your subconscious mind knows, even as an infant.
Isn't
And I've worked with these things. Like I released preconception emotions that we had in spirit, maybe from a past life.
they say now that even what's going on when you're in the womb.
100%. You're in someone else's energy field, inside another human being who has their own energy field. One of my favorite things to work on in this modality is inherited emotions or inherited body issues. And those are some of the most transformational things I've cleared for people. I mean, it's just like full body chills every single time. Like
There's a lot.
we trace it back to an ancestor. Sometimes they're more immediate, like a parent or a grandparent, aunt or uncle. Sometimes they're like 10 generations removed. And it's just, and it reminds me of Bruce Lipton's work with epigenetics. Like it just carries down the line.
Until somebody decides to
Right.
bring awareness.
And the most beautiful thing about clearing inherited emotions is that when we clear it from the person that's sitting in front of me, it clears that whole line.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful. I watch people just like well up with tears and cry because they can feel that weight lift.
And I think that when I was younger, I didn't understand the importance of ancestry, and now I'm such an advocate of people to know where they came from for just that reason. I mean, yes, all the stories are fun and some of them aren't, and it's really cool to know you may be connected to this and that.
Right.
Really, like, I knew that I healed them, but I also brought back their strength. I feel them in me. It was such a power boost that I got.
It's incredible. I had that feeling. I had an Akashic reading done for past life stuff about a year ago. And I had a similar feeling of almost all of my past lives like compressing and aligning, like, oh, I get it now. Get it now. I feel what you're saying. Like they are us and we are them. And maybe in a metaphysical way, we are them again. Like
Absolutely.
that's pretty common. So this modality is endlessly fascinating to me, the things that come up. And it's like anything can cause anything. Dr. Brad Nelson, who's the creator of this, always tells the story about this woman who came to him and she had chronic, miserable migraines. And he was, clearing stuff. And he came to a trapped emotion in her toe. And he cleared that and her migraines never came back. It's like,
whenever there's chronic pain, I mean, I'm sure you can probably attest to this with this work as well. Just being a body worker, I mean, I could rub your chronic pain for the rest of your life, and it may feel good, for that day or whatever.
yeah, there's always a story behind why it's there.
Yep.
It could be a belief. It could be trapped emotion. It could be something in your body that's causing something else in your body to go haywire. Like it's all connected.
You have to look at all aspects of everybody. Because, I mean, we could just address, and that's, I think, the problem with our medical system. We're only treating and diagnosing.
Right.
And
And again, it's capitalism. It's like turning tables at a restaurant. Like, when's the last time you had more than 15 minutes with your doctor?
okay, was it yesterday? So my son has asthma, and he had an asthma attack, went to the ER. And he messaged me. He was like, Mom,
I said to the doctor,
I've been having a lot of ear pain. She goes, well, you should have mentioned that when you first got here. He's like, but I'm mentioning it now. While I'm here, can you also check on my ear? And I mean, it was just like, but you're not here for that.
Make another appointment and pay another copay.
I mean, total awful bedside manner. I mean, she could have cared less about him. She just wanted him out.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I don't want to discount modern medicine. It has 100% saved lives, saved groups of people. Like, it's useful. We need it. But we need both. It's like that Nikola Tesla quote, like, the future is energy, vibration, frequency. Or like Einstein saying, like, the future of medicine is medicine of frequency. To me, what I do is a great addition to traditional healthcare because it addresses the full beingness of that human living being living in a meat suit.
Okay, so I have a question for you. There's a body code, an emotion code. Is there a spiritual code? And if there's not, that might be something that you might know what to create.
So there is a third level of this, which is called belief code.
Oh,
So that one is very much deep dive on internal belief systems. Body code gets into that a bit with like despair anchors. Those are things like I'll never amount to anything. These are like radio frequencies that we're sending out, like disregard me, don't love me. These are things that we can be sending out unknowingly and wondering why, like, why do I have all these challenging relationships? Why does anyone loves me?
right. I'll never be good
All of
enough.
these things are beliefs, and we can dive into them a little bit pretty extensively with body code, but belief code is the next layer of that. So it really encompasses like the whole energy system of our bodies. Really fascinating.
What does a session look like?
So for any session you have with me, there's always going to be an intake form that will have you kind of address what exactly you're wanting to work on, maybe some stuff that's going on in your life that we can look at in a session. And then once we're face to face on Zoom or whatever we use, again, it's going to be taking a little bit to chat, decide what we're going to work on that day, and then taking that moment of silence to just go in, connect, get grounded, and then we just go straight in. So for my emotion code sessions, they're 30 minutes, which doesn't sound long, but we can get a lot done in that
Yeah.
time. Body code is 45 minutes because it's much more intensive. There's a lot more note taking that I'm doing. And that one's more layered because let's say it shows us that there's some kind of imbalance in your muscular system. There's imbalances underneath that. So I like to say I dig all the way down to the root of the topic that we have, and then we clear going all the way up. So we use the governing meridian to clear for trapped emotions or energies. The governing meridian runs from like the top of your lip all the way down. And it's a part of the Chinese medicine meridian. I will either just use my hand, and sometimes that's where I'll incorporate Reiki into a session. I'll use Reiki and the governing meridian to clear whatever's trapped, or I'll just use a regular old magnet. We are magnetic beings. And so that's how I clear it. With the session, I just try to take my time, but also get a good amount in those time frames. And there are some things specifically with body code that maybe more than one session is needed. But yeah, that's really all it is. We find whatever's trapped. I will typically find an age or time frame with it and any other information that your body wants to give us. And then we acknowledge it. I like to have my clients breathe with me, like as we release them. So breathing in, letting it out, and as they're breathing out, I'll clear it. That just brings more somatic into it, and staying in the body. And then really, I'm going off of your subconscious. So if it had enough, it's going to tell us. It's not going to give us any more yet. So that's another thing I love about both these modalities is they're so gentle. And some people during a session will feel like tinglies in their body. When we release stuff, some people will have like an emotion come up that we're clearing, some sadness, maybe some fears. And sometimes they don't feel anything until after the session's over and they're like, "Ooh, I feel so much lighter." Like I hear that a lot. And so that's kind of how it goes until our time's up. And I try to just get in as much as we can.
It's amazing. I love it. It's so cool. I'm sitting here thinking of so many people who have reached out to me lately. It's interesting because you have some that are struggling but can handle it because they have done a lot of work. One person I'm thinking about, she was recently laid off and she just was like, sometimes we just need a break, a breather, you know, and just in more of an acceptance of flow and ease. And I just thought that was nice. And I could feel the lightness from her unfortunate situation. It was not heavy. And then you have some others. And, I feel being such an empath, I'm like experiencing as they're telling me, and I'm feeling like my chest heavy, like something just dropped on
Yeah.
me.
That happens a lot to me in sessions. If you're familiar with human design, anyone listening, I'm a 6'2" splenic projector, and I only have my root and my spleen defined. And so the rest of my system is super open. So whoever I'm working with most likely has more centers than I do. And I'm always taking in their energy. And it's like, I'm literally feeling the pain they're feeling the sadness that gets brought up, feeling all of these different things. And so it can be kind of intense. But again, like I said, it's so gentle. And I'm a firm believer in we all need to find a modality that works for us. My modality is not going to work for everyone, and that's okay. It works for me, and it works for a lot of the clients that I've seen that continue to come back or tell me, updates on their stories. So it's really powerful.
It's so cool. I love to try all new modalities. I mean, I'm always open, to trying new things. We have so many layers to heal. I mean, believe me, there's something.
Yeah.
Even if you feel like you've come so far. And I felt like the more I was healing, the more space I was making to connect more with my highest self. Or as I
Totally.
talked to some guy the other day, he calls it your timeless self, which I really like.
I like that.
Me too. And my soul. Then there's a whole nother layer.
We have this main topic, like maybe their shoulder hurts or something, or they're having neck pain. And then it like goes back to 3rd grade when someone bullied them. And they're like, how is that connected? And I'm like, it's just your body's way of figuring this whole thing out. And it's all these little chain links that have led to this shoulder pain,
But our body, it's a truth detector, right? It has this amazing ability to discern, and we don't use it nearly as much as we should in this way.
Why not?
But just think about when you're faced with, like, sometimes when someone tells me synchronicity, I mean, immediately my body reacts and has goosebumps, right?
Yeah, it really is the body. I mean, and that's what I mean when I say like the subconscious is reflected out physically through this body. And so it's like what you're saying. We don't have to force ourselves to smile when we feel happy. We just do. Or you can see people who are depressed or who are dealing with like really heavy things, their posture slouches.
Nah.
Like the subconscious is always telling us what's going on internally, even if we can't see it.
Right. So they're resonating the frequency.
And that's what I come in and clear. So when that frequency is gone, it shifts everything around. And every once in a while, it doesn't happen to everyone, but some of my clients that maybe are more sensitive will have like the next couple days after a session, everything's kind of like reintegrating and they'll feel that shift sort of happening in their bodies, whether that means like some of the emotions we cleared come up and go or little body things that kind of feel like weird or odd, but then it kind of settles. And to me, it feels like, the body's slower than the energy. So it's reintegrating this new energetic frequency that you have
Yep.
settling into it. And then it's like,
A lot of people experience as they're awakening, they do experience like a lot of headaches and a lot of body pain. And this is something that I hear over and over. And I know Mandy and I, we both were diagnosed with fibromyalgia,
yeah, same.
right? The energy is so intense as it's really coming through, I guess, like that Kundalini energy rising kind of, and your body doesn't know how to process it. So it just freaks out.
Yeah. And I definitely experienced that at the beginning. I mean, really throughout my life, I had held on to so much. Poor my old me. She was holding so much she didn't need to, poor thing. I experienced severe body pain at the beginning of all of this back in, 2018.
Great. This work would be so cool for people who are just awakening.
Totally.
Because it would help align you with your body and also could help you start that healing process. And I've talked about this many times on my podcast, how things have come up in my life. I'm like, why didn't that come out like when I was in therapy or whatever, or
Right.
things come out in divine timing. So I like what you said, like, you'll stop getting that yes. Like, your
Yeah.
soul is so intelligent, it'll only allow what is supposed to heal at this moment.
Right. And I would say too, like, I hope my clients don't have to come back to me at some point.
Really?
Like, I really do, because I want them to be empowered to do their own work. This this is a starting ground for them to maybe recognize and see some just old junk that's like living in there. And the more space we clear out, like the more space we have for us to come back in. And of course, I would love to work with people for an extended period of time. I love them, but I ultimately, like, I want to give them the opportunity to work on themselves. And I don't really see myself as like a healer, or people could label that because of the modality I do. But to me, it's like, I'm just a space holder that learned this for you,
Yeah.
my client, to heal themselves. And I'm just holding the container for it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want my ego mixed into this, because the root of why I'm doing this is because I know it works and I know I can hold space for people. So I hope that they get enough to where they can just be released and I can free them. And then that makes more space for like people on a different level of their path. So at the beginning of this, when I was first finishing my courses and everything, I had like some of the worst lower back pain ever. And I went to see an acupuncturist. It was like my first session with her. And I'd never had acupuncture before. And by the way, if you haven't, you should try it. But she had put, everything in, and she just left me for like, 30, 40 minutes to just relax and be there. And the second she left the room, I just got heat like all the way down my body. And I heard in my ears, like, your back is hurting because you're birthing something right now. Like, something new is coming out into the world. This is the path you've been waiting for up here, like, there's something about this time for me that just feels so transformational, and I feel ready,
Yeah.
and it feels more grounded and settled than I ever have in my whole life.
There's something to say for that as well, is that not only can it be healing, not only can it clear all patterns and all these things, but it also can make space for you to be able to say, oh, this is my purpose.
Right.
This is who I really am and why I'm really here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And something I just want to mention too, I think sometimes for clients, there's a hesitancy, especially when they don't fully understand me tapping into their subconscious. Now, I'm not looking at anything wild. Your body's only going to bring forth like what it needs to. And, and I've worked with people who, whatever topic they're wanting to work on is extremely sensitive and maybe something very traumatic that they've experienced.
Yeah.
The other thing that makes this such a gentle modality is you don't even have to tell me. If someone was assaulted or went through a really traumatic experience, I don't even need to know about it.
Yeah.
Your subconscious knows exactly what you are wanting to work on. And so I've done plenty of sessions where someone will just say, like, I don't really want to explain the situation, but they're holding that frequency, that feeling. One client I've worked with, it was just incredible. Again, she didn't go into super detail about what we were working on, but every single emotion or body thing that came up for her was directly tied to this traumatic event that she experienced as a child. And I never worked with her face to face. I only worked with her at a distance. So she gave me the information. I sat by myself, connected to her energy, did the session, and emailed it to her. And every single week, she'd come back and go, how do you know?
I mean, we don't question why you and I can see each other right now.
Right.
It's very similar. I mean, energy.
Well, and that just, yeah. And that being said, I also, so at the end of a session, I take a bunch of notes so that you don't have to worry about it while we're sitting together. You can just focus on the healing part, and then I'll email it out to the client post session, and then they can review it. We can look back at it.
Bree, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your beautiful modality and your journey.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I love you.
You want to know something really cute? But so the end of last year, I don't know if you're familiar with the 12 magical nights. Have you ever done that practice?
No.
So leading up to either winter solstice or whatever you celebrate, you make these manifestation wishes, whatever, for the next coming year, and you write them all down. So this is how I did. I wrote them all down, and I wrote them twice so that I could have a copy to remember what I did. And then the other one, I folded them all up, and out of those 12 or 13, I think, you're supposed to pick one. And whatever one you pick, that's your responsibility for that year to work toward. The other ones you release to the universe, to God, to whoever, and say, they'll take care of it. And this is the one I wrote for this year. And it says, I'm featured on Sense of Soul podcast.
Oh my God.
I did it. I can burn this one now.
Congratulations. And it's an honor to have you. I feel like I am so lucky to have met you and made this connection. And you're close to me. We should get together much more.
We need to. I know.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to schedule a session with you. So let's do it.
Yeah, let's totally do it.
Can you do it on animals?
Yes, actually. Yeah. I've done lots of animal sessions. That was part of my certification process. Yep. So I worked with lots of little doggies and cats, and I don't have them listed currently on my website. But if someone wants an animal session, they can email me and I can make it happen.
So what's your website?
It is energywithbri, BRI.com. ENERGYWITHBRI.com. And then my Instagram is the same thing. It's just energy_with_Bri. And then if anyone has questions that aren't answered on my website, there is a bunch of listed frequently asked questions on there. But if they have questions that I didn't answer, my email is shiftyourenergywithbri@gmail.com.
The world needs you, Bree. You're doing your part.
Here I am,
Yeah.
putting myself out there.
So are you writing out your new 12?
I am. It's really fun. And I look back at mine from last year and several of them happened.
So you do it by what date? By tomorrow or?
I don't know. I'm not a stickler for has to be this time for it to work. That's
Just this time of year kind of thing.
but yeah.
I mean, it's great for a New Year thing or an end of the year, something to set intentions for the next year for 2025.
Yep, anytime. And I kind of just make it into a little meditation. So yeah, I think you're right. 13, 12 of them you leave, and then the one that you pick out is your responsibility.
I love that. That's so cool. You're so awesome.
You're awesome. You're awesomer.
Thanks for listening to Sense of Soul podcast, and thanks to our special guests for joining me. If you want more of Sense of Soul, check out my website at www.mysenseofsoul.com, where you can work with me one-on-one or help support Sense of Soul podcast by donating to my coffee fund. Thanks for listening.